These are suggestions now for men and women to understand how we're dressing and what we're doing. We need to ask ourselves. So ask yourselves this about immodest dress every day, and men and women need to ask yourselves this. Who are we dressing for? Who are we dressing for? Another thing we need to ask ourselves, are we honoring our spouses in the way we're dressing? Then we need to ask ourselves, are we a good representative of our Creator by the way we're dressing? And we need to ask ourselves, do our non-believing friends dress the same way we are? Or do we dress the same way they are? Well, these are serious questions we need to ask yourself. And then finally, how often do we look at ourselves before we go out for the day in the mirror? How often do we look at ourselves? Do we look at our backside to make sure it looks good? Do we look at our clothing to make sure everything is perfect? What is our goal? This is what we need to think about. Ladies, I can't give you a more straight up answer than this of how a man thinks. Any part of your body you reveal is saying this is for the taking. Not even for sale, it's for free. So when you go out showing your cleavage, you're telling a man or sending a message to a man, hey, this is for the taking. Whether you're married or not doesn't matter. A man's not looking at the ring on your finger, he's looking at the cleavage that you're exposing. So we need to think about this thing. And that's what it says. I mean, I'm from New York City, the safest city in the world. No, it really is. I mean, per capita, there's much less crime there than any other city in the world. But I could tell you this, if you're wearing a diamond necklace and a whole bunch of gold rings, and you walk down a dark alleyway, not only in New York, but any city, chances are you're not coming out with those gold rings and that diamond necklace. Do you understand what I'm saying, people? I mean, if you have too much jewelry on, chances are you're not even going to come out of the alleyway, period. But we have to understand we don't want to create certain issues and draw attention to ourselves that we shouldn't be drawing attention to ourselves. What we really have today is we have the advertisers that are programming us to do these things, and they know how to do their job, and they're doing it wonderfully. When they have subliminal messages on clothing today, they have arrows pointing to certain areas, and that's where the man's eyes goes. The shirts are pointing this and all these different points, and little kids are dressing in things that are just revealing the complete shape of their body. It's creating a big problem, folks, and we need to do something about this if we want to get well. Now, we have a timing issue because a woman will say, well, I understand what you're saying, but my husband likes when I dress these things. As a matter of fact, a man recently told me, I like when my wife shows off her body because she's like my trophy wife, and it shows that I got a beautiful wife. That's a sick, sick thinking, folks. We can't be thinking like that as believers. If your husband loves the way that you dress or look in immodest clothing, well, wear that immodest clothing for him in his own privacy. Think about if he loves the way you look in these sexy clothes, don't you think every man in the world is going to love the way you look when you go out of your house? So do it in privacy for him and please him that way, but don't be going out the world and pleasing every other man by dressing half naked and walking around half naked. We need to do something about this, and men also need to do something about it. Men, you have to acknowledge we have a weakness. That's number one. Acknowledge we have a weakness, and then don't go to places that we're going to be tempted by. It's not wise for a man to go to a place like a beach or a mall where there are people walking around revealing the shapes of their body. This is something we have to think about and take seriously, and it's just not spoken about enough. We have to take the example of Joseph in the scriptures. Joseph wasn't a man that said, well, I'm a man of our Creator, and I'm going to stay and fight temptation. No, when he was tempted, he ran. He ran. If you see me running, don't say Paul's weak, say Paul's wise. He ran. That's what we need to understand. This world and the way the women of the world are thinking today will lead you to the death, to the slaughterhouse, just like an ox going to the slaughter, as it says in Proverbs. We need to understand the adversary is lurking, just trying to get to us one way or another. And it's no different today. Women are thinking like men because of the drugs and food today. So if a man's dressed immodest or immoral, it's the same problem. Men, you need to understand, when a man in the scriptural times took his cloak off, his tunic off, he had a t-shirt under there. The t-shirt was an undergarment. It wasn't an outer garment. Today, our undergarments have become our outer garments. This creates an issue. Look, if I wanted to make a lot of money, I would just start a whole business of advertising on people's underwears. You got these women revealing their underwears with these low hip pants. You got the men revealing their underwears. They're wearing their pants down to their hips. What fools? You know how foolish that is? You know where that started? That started in the prison when the male prisoners wanted to let the other male prisoners know that they were available. So they started wearing their pants down to their hips. And now you got the hip-hop community using it today and people using it today. That's a foolish thing, folks. But it's immodest. Either way, revealing our undergarments should never be considered modest, according to our Creator's words. But that's how far we've gotten today, because people are accepting it this way.
Come out of the world, oh my people, seek the truth, avoid the evil, learn Yahweh's ways, Torah Life Ministries, come out of the world.